Boom, the Odyssey. Let's go. Love this book. And I loved it not because everybody else loved it. I loved it because one, it was a challenge for me to read. I'm not into Greek mythos or mythology or whatever you want to call it. It's not my jam. I like Stephen King, crime novels, biographies. To read the Odyssey, odd for me. The reason why I read this book, Christopher Nolan's doing a movie called The Odyssey based off the book. And I'm like, I definitely want to see the movie. So I should definitely read the book, get the backstory, understand it. And I got to tell you, it was an easier read than I thought. I was intimidated by this, the language, there is your dinner, friend, the pork of slaves. What? Who talks like that? Nobody. But what I will say is written so simplistically, as you just read, right? Another part, not that I can blame you. That's a sentence. That's you wouldn't know that was out of a Greek mythology book. Not that I can blame you. That could be in a Colleen Hoover novel. Not that I read a Colleen Hoover novel. So let's talk about it. Homer, why do I love this book? I'll give you like 8 things that I'd like to discuss from the book. One is it's a story, if you haven't read it, about a guy who he fought in the Trojan War, and then he is captured by a goddess Calypso on an island, and she's not letting him go. She's like, yo, you stay here, you be my sex slave, basically, and you could forget about your family. I'll take care of you, boo. Which is crazy now that I think about it. That at the time that there was this idea of a woman, making a guy a sex slave and like, I'll take care of you, no worries. I feel like anytime you hear about any literature that's been written historically, it's always about the man making the woman a sex slave. But really, like the goddesses they was trying to get it in. It was some toxic goddess action taking place. Um, and so he's trapped on his island for like 8 or 9 years. She won't let him go. And then Athena, another goddess who got my boy Odysseus's back. She's like, yo, Zeus, you gotta let my boy go. Because Zeus is the god of gods. And Athena is his daughter, and she's like, yo, you gotta let him go. The problem is Poseidon, who's Zeus's brother, is like, no, I hate that dude. I hate that dude, Odysseus. Let him stay on that island forever. And so when Zeus finally releases him and allows Athena to help him, Poseidon steps in and just creates all these obstacles along the way for Odysseus to get through so that he can make it home. And that's basically the gist of the book is Poseidon being a hater, right? And it's like Athena trying to help him and Poseidon trying to hurt him. Really kill him. He wants this dude out of there. And there's some backstory to that they don't get into in the book. But I think they do. I just didn't understand. I'm gonna be honest. There was a lot in this book I did not understand. But what I did understand is uh, there's one island he lands on where it's really about addiction, right? He meets his troops that he thought he had lost. He finds his men on his island, and he's like, "Yo, come with me. I'm headed back home." And the men don't want to leave because they're all eating this lotus plant. It's basically like opium, and they're addicted to it. And they're like, "No, man, we got it good here. We Gucci." Like they're not eating, they're not doing anything but eating this plant. And he's like, and so he has to trick them to get them back on the boat. He basically has to kidnap his own men to get them back on the boat so that they can get out of there. Which was, it's like, it just makes me think about, if you found your sibling or friend in the alley doing crack and they're like, yo, I got everything I need. I don't need home. And it's like, it's something heartbreaking about that. And then there's another island with these sirens, right? These beautiful women who sing this song that's so seductive that call you to the island. But what ends up happening is the ships of men who are seduced by this song, they crash into the island, and then the sirens eat them all. Right? This is what they do. So Odysseus, he clogs his men's ears with honey and some other stuff so they can't hear it, and then Odysseus himself is tied to the mast of the ship, so he can't, be like, "Let's go, man, let's go," because it's just an overwhelming pull, and that also speaks to addiction. Is like, I'm on a cruise ship right now, and there are all these foods up at the buffet, these cookies, cakes, and ice creams, and they're just calling to me like sirens. So like we all have our sirens, right? We all have that thing that calls to us. And then if we get too close to it, boom, we crash, and it eats us alive. It eats our dreams and our livelihood and all those things. So there's just so many cool themes in here. Um, but the one thing that, I'm not a big revenge guy. I'm not big on vengeance. I'm not big on revenge. So that's why, like, I love a Batman. I love the Batman movie, the last one, where he starts off as vengeance, and then he realizes that he's only creating more violence as a result of seeking vengeance for the death of his parents. In this book, it feels warranted that Odysseus would come home and then be like, I gotta slaughter all these dudes that have been raping the women, eating my foods, destroying my land and my home, and then also trying to sleep with my wife. Like, if I come home and I find a bunch of dudes in my house and they are doing whatever they want to do, dead, dead. They're out of there. And I know this is on YouTube and this is in the world, and now I can't get a CEO gig or something like that. Maybe I get canceled. You're dead. I've been at war for 9 years, and what? You better get your feet off. Don't even have your feet on my table, son. Don't even have your feet on my. Let me just keep going. But I also love the father-son relationship where his son just knows that his father's still alive, like, or he just feels it, and so he searches for him, but he doesn't know. He's just hoping. He doesn't have answers, and he's like, I'm not going to rest until I see a body or have physical confirmation that my father's dead. And so he goes out looking for his father, I'm a sucker for a father-son story, and like happiness with or the pursuit of happiness with Will Smith. Like, that's just beautiful. You throw a father son mix in there, and I'm all. "Ah!" So I love that they get to reunite, and then take out these dudes that's just been camping in a house and drinking their wine and eating their food. I mean, I, oh man, just something about that just gets me. You know what I mean? And then what else? I'm looking at my notes, but also the book also speaks to free will versus determinism, because as much as Odysseus is a great warrior, right? He is being helped by the gods, Zeus, Athena specifically. So he's getting outside help. And I think that we downplay how much help we get from just random acts of luck, kindness, strangers, God, whatever you want to attribute it to. So many people are walking around like they're self-made. Everything they did on their own. They didn't have any help. They pulled themselves up by the bootstraps. But the truth is, there were so many things in your life that's out of your control. Let's just start with gravity. You don't have control over gravity, bro. So, like, if you just all of a sudden lost gravity, what would you get done? You'd be out there floating in, you'd be walking around in moon boots or something like that. So there's just, your height, your skin color, like, I mean, look at your boy Leo Flowers. I didn't ask to look this magnificent, this gorgeous, you know what I mean? Sea wolves. There are sea wolves in this story. I'm not gonna get into that. What I will talk about, last thing, is the generosity of strangers. There's this idea in the book that you don't know who is a human, who is mortal, and who is immortal. So sometimes the gods will present themselves as a mortal being, as a peasant, as a beggar. And depending on how you treat them is then depends on if you'll be rewarded or punished or not. And so like anytime a stranger shows up somewhere, the locals are quick to be kind to them, to be generous with them. And it's also in the Bible. It's also in the Bible that God can come in many forms, and Jesus could be anybody. And I think about that. Even if there's so much, depending on where you are, you might see so many people who are living on the streets, and they might ask you for money. And even if I don't give them anything, I at least try to be kind in my interactions with them. I'm sorry, man, I don't have it, versus like just looking away and keep walking, unless they're displaying some threatening, erratic behavior. But 9 times out of 10, if I do have something on me, I'm going to give them something. They're just asking for something. 50 cents, a dollar, $2, whatever it is. So just that generosity, if you could do that and be that for someone at any time, because you don't really know who's who, but that's not why you want to do it. You do it because we're all connected. We're all connected, and that could be you one day. It could be you. You think it couldn't be you, but Poseidon sometimes wins. Sometimes Poseidon gets, not in this story, but there are haters out there. There are evildoers. There are enemies. There are foes, and sometimes they win, and they put you in a situation where maybe you got to beg for a dollar. So this is not just a book I recommend to read, but I recommend to reread it. And actually, I really don't know anybody who's only read this book once. This is a read it 10 times kind of book every few years. So that's my book review, The Odyssey. Pick it up, check it out, read it, talk about it, comment below. Let me know your thoughts about The Odyssey. What were your takeaways? What were your thoughts about it? Yeah, peace.